The D700 is this camera that really sort of went under the radar for a long time. I always thought that it deserved like a pretty amazing legacy, but it looked like the Canon 5D was just sort of running with this reputation of being the king of the hill in the early 2000s. First one was the first affordable full frame, and the second one was the first with affordable high resolution image and video recording. Where the D700 wasn't really the first at anything, but it was the best anyway. I mean, it was so much more a capable camera than the 5D at that time. I think if you held them up next to each other, the D700 would feel like a professional camera, where the 5 always felt like cameras that could sort of do the job, but felt like professional image quality put into a consumer body in a way, where the D700 felt like a fully professional camera except for the pop-up flash. It was so weird they put it on. But I guess that was to sort of resonate with a broader audience or something. But in my opinion, that was always the camera's Achilles heel. And it was also the sort of death of my camera, because that was the part that broke when I dropped it a couple of years back. Nej, jeg gør ikke. Du bare lader noget sjovt, du. Det gør han da. Prøv at se, hvor sjov han ser ud.
Ej, lad mig være! Vi skulle lige til at løbe op derfra.
I remember owning this camera in the early days was sort of like, felt like I was onto something that other people weren't or haven't discovered. I think everyone went either Canon or they owned a D3. Maybe they went for something cheaper like a D300 or something. So I think I met some guy in London in 2012. That's like 4 years after the release. That was the first time I met someone else with the D700, and I was a photojournalist. I was around a great deal of photographers all of the time. But I think this camera came out in this sort of vacuum in between the D3 and the D3s. I think early adopters of the Nikon full frame system, they were on the D3, so they were not really in the market for a cheaper body when the D700 was released. I don't know, I haven't really thought this out. I just always thought it was funny that this camera never really found a huge audience in its heydays. But its heydays are long gone now, and for weird reason it's now picking up attention a lot. It has been doing so for a couple of years actually. It's really nice to see that this camera is finally getting a legacy in a way. Because I always thought that this camera really were capable of carrying like a strong legacy. I know that it sounds really like dramatic, but yeah. It feels like this camera finally found its audience in a way. And I mean, if my camera wasn't broken, I would still not hesitate to pick it up and use it as a backup body today. I guess when I look at my career as a photojournalist, this camera was probably my most used camera, I think. I feel like it is, because of size. This would usually be the one that I picked up as the main camera. I would have sort of a purpose to take the D3s instead, because of its size, even though it's a little bit better camera in some ways. The D700 really never disappointed. And I think that just means that this camera was just with me for 9 years or so. Longer, I think longer, because I did my last professional job with this in around 2019, I think. That will give it around 10 years of main camera usage, and that's quite impressive, I think. I did later add on a D800, but they sort of complemented each other in a way, because the D800 never felt like a replacement for the D700. It was slower, it has more megapixels, and I really rarely needed those extra megapixels, but when I did, the 800 obviously delivered in a whole other impressive way that the D700 could not. So yeah, I'm a bit sad that it's broken today. It's still working, and I would still pick it up for a walk or a weekend trip somewhere, but I don't really trust it enough to take on a professional job anymore. That is a little bit sad, I think, because it's definitely capable of it. Yeah, I hope that one day I'll pick up a next to free not functioning body that I could replace the broken parts with, and get me shooting with this camera again, because it's really one of the greatest. My D700's been used on newspaper assignments every day for about 6-7 years, so it's definitely been tested and tried, and it has held up really until I dropped it and it broke. And I've taken 2 of my 3 awarded pictures with this camera. Once in the Sandholm Lyre, a picture that I showed in another video, and the second time was this old lady who got, I was gonna say deportated, but I had the other video in my mind, but she was getting moved from her home to a home for elder people, and she was just moved there with no other help than having her whole life moved into this tiny apartment, and then she received no help or assistance in moving in, so she just lived in this apartment with boxes all over the place. And we did a portrait of this lady, and it got recognized by the judges at the Danish Press Photo of the Year, and I won the 2nd place award for that picture. But this happened at a time when I was already starting to doubt my will to be a photojournalist. Not so much the ability to be one, but more like the will to be one. It wasn't my dream job anymore, and honestly I don't think it ever were my dream job. I just sort of got into it because I came straight out of School of Journalism and I got offered a job, mainly because I had just won an award, and that just led to more work, and that was really great. And turning this job offer down felt like being really spoiled in a way, because this job at a newspaper would be every photojournalist's wildest dream in a way. So I just thought that would be my dream as well, but it wasn't. And I figured that out years later, the hard way in a way, because I really burned out hard in that job, to be honest. Yeah, I don't regret taking the job, because I have so many great experiences and memories from working as a photojournalist for 6, 7, 8 years. But I'm also really glad to be out of it, I think. Out of all of these great experiences, I went to the Paralympics in London 2012, and I went to the 10-year anniversary of 9/11 with a press access, and that was a heartbreaking experience and something really special to experience, I think. Some of the things that I enjoyed the most was election days. But eventually all of the negative parts of being a photojournalist got a hold of me, and I had to quit it. And I really had to quit it from one day to the other. I called in and said, I'm not gonna do it anymore. And I haven't worked for a newspaper ever since. That was really difficult and hard, and also turned into a depression. And this is something I want to talk about at some point. Now I talked about it a little bit, but I think this is a topic worth exploring, because I think mental health as a photojournalist and as a photographer is really important, and it's something we don't talk enough about. Yeah. And for some time there, I thought that my time with photography was done, but eventually I knew that it wasn't. I just wasn't in the right place the first time, and I made the decision to go with theater photography, which is a field of work that I've always enjoyed, but it wasn't my main occupation in the beginning. But I decided to go full time with that, and now I feel like I'm in the right place. I really love my work. In a way where photojournalism is still a great skill to have. Yeah. So yeah, would I recommend buying the D700 today? Hell yeah.